Hey, so with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I figured I would go ahead and stop and give my thoughts on the movie. I decided to go ahead and make this a spoiler free review. I will be dropping a spoiler review later today, but I figured I would drop my spoiler free thoughts for those who haven't seen it. Um, I took a few days. I saw it Thursday I saw a 4:30 showing on Thursday, and I've been thinking over it the past couple days and been thinking like, okay, where do I land on it? And so right off the bat, let's get started talking about the good. And overall, I think one big thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is the fact that it does a very good job of closing out the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Like it gives a very definitive like close, and it's very satisfying to see. And I think that the focus that we get put on Rocket in this movie, this is definitely a Rocket centric movie. To where if you've seen the trailers and stuff, you know that like they're diving very deep into his background, into his origins, and like what was his life like before the Guardians of the Galaxy, and they dive really deep into that, and it is really interesting how they do it. Likewise, the High Evolutionary is. It took me a minute to come to this conclusion, but I think the High Evolutionary is the best Guardians of the Galaxy centric villain that we have gotten. Just because he is one of those villains that, like, right from the get go, you immediately want this guy taken down, and he is just like a vile, disgusting person that is just does very sickening, horrible things, and yeah, you want to see him taken out. And so yeah, getting to see an actual like because Brennan the Accuser is kind of just like generic bad guy in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and then when you get Volume 2, Ego has there is more interesting because it's Star Lord's father. But at the end of the day, it's still like, oh, I just want to conquer everything because, well, just because. Like, I want to be everything. Like, and it doesn't really go much deeper than that. The High Evolutionary, the background that they give for his motivation and stuff, it's very interesting and very compelling. I like the way they handle it. Um, Likewise, I think that overall that the humor is much more well balanced in this movie compared to some of the other MCU movies, to where when something tragic happens, they don't immediately undercut it with a joke. So this is not a Thor: Love and Thunder situation to where you have like Jane Foster talking about cancer, or Gore the God Butcher slaughtering a god, and then you get a 5 minute skit about screaming goats, or look, Chris Hemsworth's butt is showing. No, they're not doing that. Like they're taking like there's still jokes in the movie, like, but when something dark and serious happens, they let it be a dark and serious moment. They let you sit in that and really kind of like absorb, like, okay, that right there, that was messed up. And yeah, so yeah, that's definitely my thoughts as far as like the good. Move on to the mixed aspects of the movie. For me personally, I really kind of struggle with. I think one of the biggest mixed aspects is the soundtrack for this movie. And what I mean by that is, apart from one or two main songs that appear in the movie, for a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, this has a very forgettable soundtrack. Like, there's a handful of songs. Like, there's probably like two or three different songs that, like, okay, yeah, I like that. It works good. There's especially a song like right towards the opening, and there's a song very close towards the end of the movie. Both of which, like, if you know the ones I'm talking about, like, I mean, you're gonna know immediately, like, okay, cool, like those are good. But it's not like to the point to where like I went online and looked up the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 soundtrack and was listening to it. And a good portion of the songs, as I was listening through them, I was struggling to remember, like, wait, where did that play in the movie? Like, what scene was that? I'm drawing a blank. Like, and that's not good because Guardians of the Galaxy, like, when you think of, Come and Get Your Love, or, Mr. Blue Sky, Fleetwood Mac's Never Break the Chain, like, you got stuff like that. You've got the song that's the By the Sea song for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that is the I'm trying to remember exactly the name of the song. It was it was I remember exactly that it was that it is played like 2 or 3 times, and it's about Quill's mom. It's one of her favorite songs, but it works really good. Like in the movie, like it's like as soon as you hear that song, like and you think Guardians of the Galaxy, you immediately know that song. Like I think Fleetwood Mac Never Break the Chain, and yeah, I immediately think of when the Guardians of the Galaxy are getting ready to split up in Guardians Volume 2. Like like whenever the Come and Get Your Love, like I automatically think of that opening, with like Star Lord, and yeah, I mean, like yeah, I automatically think of all of those different things, and this movie just apart from like 2 or 3 different moments, like does not really have anything like that. I mean, and it was kind of a little surprising, and it almost felt a little bit like in this movie without giving too much away. It felt like the music was kind of just there. Like it felt a little bit more like it felt less like an organic way to incorporate music into the movie, and felt like, oh hey, Guardians of the Galaxy, we have to have iconic songs from like like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s in here because Guardians of the Galaxy in Volume 2 had them. So like Volume 1 and Volume 2 had them. The holiday special had them. Volume 3 has to have, like iconic music. And for me, it just wasn't really that memorable. Like, I mean, maybe after like multiple viewings, the soundtrack will become more, like memorable for me. And I might be like, okay, like I can get down with this. Like, like this could be interesting. Like I can gel with this. Like, okay, this works. With that said, let's move on to the bad. And right now, the biggest things that I can think of with the bad is there are 3 different aspects, and they're all character based. And the 3 characters that I feel like have the most problematic, like of this story is in regards to I think that Adam Warlock, the story that they decided to do with him, and then the character of Gamora. Those are both very frustrating characters, and it also makes Star Lord a very frustrating character because essentially what you have is it feels a lot like with it feels less like Adam Warlock and 2014 Gamora organically fit into the story, and more like that, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 has a post-credit scene that teases Adam Warlock. Well, we haven't seen Adam Warlock yet, and we're now about to close out Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Adam Warlock still has not shown up yet. Yeah, we need to deal with that post-credit scene and have Adam Warlock be involved. And the way that Adam Warlock is handled like Will Poulter does a decent enough job with the character. Like, I mean, it's enjoyable enough. And like overall, I do grow to enjoy him a good bit. I'm looking forward to seeing like whether or not they're going to use him more in the future, moving forward. But like, you can take Will Poulter's Adam Warlock out of this movie and replace him with any number of cosmic-based Marvel Comics villains, and you're going to more or less get the exact same result. You are not going to get very many changes. I mean, you might get a couple changes here and there, but you're not going to get anything that's like a significant, massive change, and that's disappointing. Likewise, the problem that ends up arriving with Gamora and Star-Lord is they, like, I'm going to kind of talk about what I do in the trailer, but the whole thing in the trailer of, Star-Lord trying to convince Gamora that they were in love, like, that's basically the majority of their overall relationship. Is you basically get, like a good portion of their interactions is you have Star-Lord just like acting very odd and in a way that is distracting. And likewise, it definitely feels like that, that the inclusion of Gamora was just there because, oh yeah, like it feels like, like that James Gunn might have initially had different plans for Gamora, but then Infinity War happened, Gamora gets killed off in that movie, and then in Avengers Endgame, a version of Gamora comes from the past from 2014 that has no connection to the Guardians. And now James Gunn, like, he now has to deal with that resolution of, okay, so there's Gamora is still here, but she's from a different timeline and she doesn't remember any of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And so it's like, okay, like, kind of have to resolve that. And the way that they choose to resolve it, I mean, overall it works out pretty good, but like it ends up making things problematic. And one of the things that really hurts with the Gamora thing is because she nonstop has all these Guardians of the Galaxy, like mainly telling her, like, oh, hey, like you were important to us. It makes her very abrasive because as much as they are saying they care about her, she has no memory of them. She knows nothing. And so she is just nonstop the entire movie. Her entire motivation in the movie is either being extremely abrasive and mean-spirited and agitated towards everybody, or she's just standing off to the sidelines observing things because she has no emotional investment. And so, yeah, for that reason, like, that is definitely a negative. Like, it definitely kind of soured the movie a little bit. But also, another thing is that that I meant to put into the mixed aspect is, without going too much into detail, there is a large amount of like at least good 2/3 of this movie involve very graphic, intense, and very detailed, like, like animal torture scenes. And like, if you are somebody that, like that you cannot stand seeing like innocent, cute, innocent little animals being injured, being tortured, being hurt, if that gets under your skin, this movie might not be for you, because there is a lot of that, and it does not get better as the movie goes on. The longer that the movie goes on, the more intense that it gets. The longer the movie goes, the more that they lean into it. And me personally, watching it, Like, I was able to look at and be like, I was enjoying the way that they were going, because when you see the movie, it makes sense and it helps the movie. But yeah, if you are not a fan of animals being like, like put in perilous situations where they are just being tortured and injured and just hurt and experimented on, and just, yeah, it is not going to be a movie that is going to be for you. Like, that is going to be a big problem. And yeah, that is just something to keep in mind going in. Is that, yeah, there is going to be some people that are going to be turned off because of the way they do this movie. And yeah, so just keep that in mind going in. If you are not a big fan of things that have to do with animal torture, this most likely is not going to be a movie for you. But overall, those are my spoiler-free thoughts about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let me know down in the comment section down below what your thoughts are of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Keep it spoiler-free, please, for those who have not seen the movie. Later tonight or sometime tomorrow, I will be dropping a spoiler review for those of you who have seen the movie. And look forward to talking to y'all then. Talk to you later. Bye.